Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's really an honor to be in here today to share with you. By the way, my name is Ahmed Chouari. I'm from Meknes, Morocco. I'm a university teacher. So as you can see there from the title, I'm working on memories by Muslims about Muslim and Jewish coexistence at a certain time, at a certain period of history in the 20th century, and how these Moroccans preserve or conserve the Jewish cultural heritage. I would say that this presentation would reflect the ambivalence in two proverbs. One is out of sight, out of mind. The other one is absence makes the heart grow fonder. Okay? Oh. So the outline that I will be following in this presentation is first a very brief introduction. Then I will move to the research problem and the rationale, then the objectives, some of the research questions, a very brief review of the lit because it's qualitative. I'm not concerned a lot with the literature indeed. Then the methods, findings and discussion, general conclusions with some limitations and recommendations. Okay? Right, I will start by a short story, and this story means a lot for me. It's a story that my father told me a long time ago, me and the family members, when he and his grandfather came to visit one of the Jewish friends in the Mellah. And then at that time, the Jewish friend wanted to show hospitality. And he offered some tea and some spinach. These are what we call Moroccan donuts. Now, my father accepted the tea, of course, but he refused to eat any spinach. Then once they left, or when they left, my grandfather asked my father, why didn't you want to eat that spinach? He said, I cannot because it was prepared by a Jew. Now, as a child, that was really intriguing to me as a story. And then that was the first time I came into contact with Jews, the Mellah, etc., because I used to live in a very place remote from Meknes, from the city where I live now. It's the countryside, and I had no idea, and I did not know that there are Jews in Morocco at that time. Then later on, to continue my studies, and that was the middle school, my father rented a house in Meknes. And I don't know, by coincidence, the apartment that he rented, it was in a building, in a neighborhood called it's Wadarha, Babarha, and it's just a road in front of the new Mellah of Meknes. And it's there in the new Mellah I found myself going to school, in the middle school, and it's there that for the first time I came into contact with the Jews of Morocco, the Moroccan Jews in Meknes. Then, day in, day out, I started learning about them, getting in touch with some of them, and of course, what I learned at that time is that what I did not know is really, I had no idea about what was going on. Anyway, nowadays, at the present time, the Mellah has nearly lost all its Jews. The residents of the Mellah now are, I would say, in general, Muslims, with some two Jewish families who are left in there, and most of the Jews have left to either Israel, France, USA, and Canada, and other countries, mostly in the 1960s and 70s. Now, the Muslims who are living in there in the Mellah at the present time have a lot of rich memories with their coexistence with the Jews at that time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s of the 20th century. And it seems that there is a problem nowadays at the present time. A lot of these memories are being lost because people are passing away, people are moving to other, and things are not being, I would say, saved. And that brought the idea to my mind to work on this, at least to get in contact, in touch with people who used to share the same place, the same neighborhood, with the Jews together in the 1960s, 70s, etc., for more, I would say, to preserve this for the future generations, because I feel that these things are really being lost. Now, concerning the research problem and the rationale, as I said, these memories are being lost. The Jewish culture is under threat, this heritage. The quarter, which is the new Mellah, is largely ignored at the present time, and it seems that a lot of people do not know that a long, rich history that was going on there the whole 20th century. So concerning the research questions, I developed 2 research questions. Number 1, how do Moroccan Muslims remember Muslim-Jewish coexistence in the new Mellah of Meknes, in post-colonial Morocco, of course? And the second one, to what extent do Moroccans, of course, Moroccans try and contribute to the preservation, to the conservation of this rich heritage? Now, I would like to start with first, brief, as I said, literature review. And I would say that, examining the literature, I found that studies in general disagree about the time when the Jews first settled in Morocco. And it seems that there are different studies indeed, some by foreigners, some by some of the Jews who had their origin in Morocco, and some, by some of the Moroccan scholars. And I'm glad to say that 2 of them are in here. Mr. Kambib, Professor Kambib, and Professor Bloom is here too. And what I would say is that at the very beginning is that the Jews and the Amazigh people, these are the natives of Morocco who used to live before the coming of Islam. In Morocco, these are Amazigh. They lived together and they shared a lot of things, to the extent that a lot of Amazigh people converted to Judaism. Of course, some scholars speak about different ways of living after the coming of Islam, different ways of relationships, since Morocco was divided into Bled Makhzen and Bled Siba. Bled Makhzen was mostly under the control of the king. Of course, some of the relationship, mainly when it comes to business, was between Muslims and Jews, somehow what we might call patron-client relationship, okay, in general. Some scholars like Deschen, 1983, just explored the Mellah society, and what he said about that is that theoretically speaking, the Mellah was clear or clearly defined, but still it has what we call porous borders. One of the things that we need to know about the Mellah is that in Meknes, and it's this is specific to Meknes, we have the old Mellah and the new Mellah. The old Mellah is very old, of course, and a lot of scholars wrote about the Mellahs, but there is nothing, nearly nothing, so I would say sources are scarce about the Mellah of Meknes, the old Mellah, with the exception of Asaraf, who wrote a book in 2009. It's in French. And what he said is that by the end of the 19th century, the Mellah became overcrowded because a lot of Jews from the regions, the different regions of Morocco, started moving to the Mellah of Meknes. And what happened is that the leaders of the Jewish population started to ask for another place because it was unbearable, and the old Mellah was unfit for living. So new options were given, and the best option came with the French protectorate in 1912. And here Hamriya was, which is the new, I would say, modern city, was given as an option. But the leaders of the Jewish community at that time preferred to have a piece of land that was close to the old Mellah to keep the connections. And it's there that the new Mellah was created, and it was inaugurated in 1926. So still again, there is a knowledge gap about this, is that information is rare, and when I tried to read about this or find information about this, I found that the Mellah is really ignored, or has been ignored so far. The literature about the new Mellah is very scant, and this needs to be at least addressed. Now I move to the methodology. The design that I opted for is this is qualitative indeed, mostly ethnographic study. For the sample was small at the very beginning because it was purposive sampling, and I contacted the people who have lived in the period of the 1960s, 70s with the Moroccan Jews together in the same place. Oh, that's moving. So, sorry for that. It's not me, so this is technological stuff. So at the very beginning, I interviewed some 10 participants, but later on I eliminated 3 because they did not give me much. And then plus, I would say hundreds of visits because I live next to the place. I took hundreds of pictures, a lot of documents that I checked so as to get more and more information about that period of time when I was still a child. Anyway, most of the residents that I talked to started living in the New Mellah in the 1960s, and the sample was composed of 2 generations. So as you can see in there, the 7 participants in there, the age, I would say, is not the same. That's why I spoke of 2 generations. They different jobs. Some of them are university teachers. Some of them are waiters. Some of them are just teachers in secondary school. And some of them are nurses. One of them is a housewife. Anyway, concerning the data collection, I used the semi-structured interviews, and I used content analysis. Yes, it's really crazy. Anyway, coding the data, as I said, after collecting the data, you're now going through the process of coding, I developed some themes, I would say emerging themes, because this is content analysis, qualitative approach, etc. And then concerning research question number 1, I found that there are 2 broad themes, I would say. One about happy memories, another one about what I call sad memories. Now, concerning happy memories, they are mostly about coexistence between Moroccans, Muslim Moroccans and Moroccan Jews. A lot of respondents spoke about tolerance, harmony, acceptance, etc., etc. But still, we have the sad memories where some of the participants spoke about violence, crime, murder, regret, nostalgia, and all that stuff. So I would start with the respondents concerning the positive, I would say, memories. They have a lot of positive attitudes, and they still keep those rich memories, and it was really, really enriching to listen to the interviewees. They spoke a lot about coexistence, harmony, respect, tolerance, kindness, peaceful times, and of course, other positive nouns and adjectives. So most of them spoke about sharing and helping each other, like sharing food, sharing cakes, drinks, feasts, celebrations, happy moments. And I have some of the, I would say, quotes in here from the interviews. Abdullah, for example, he said, we all live like a family. I helped them in Edinwara, which is Pasovo. I helped in building their huts, which they usually built on the roofs of their houses. They used canes and palm trees, branches to build them. They were so kind and peaceful, and I enjoyed helping them. On the other hand, Fatima said, my relationships with the Jews were very nice. I was good to them, and they were good to me. So when they wanted to know something about Islam, they came to ask me. They were famous for making cakes. I learned most of modern cakes from the Jews. They were good at preparing them. Now, here we have an example, and this is rqaqa, and everybody that I talked to spoke about this. I have never tasted it. It's a pity anyway. Hisham said about that, foods such as skhina, dafina, rqaqa were some of the most popular foods that the Jews shared with the Muslims in different occasions. We like them a lot because the Jews were good at preparing them. They also made good mahia. This is like alcoholic drink. And a lot of Moroccans used to buy these from the Jews. A lot of, or most of the respondents spoke about acceptation and crossing the religious borders. And they spoke to me about 2 examples. One of them is marriage, when a Jew got married to a Muslim woman, and then he has been living with her in spite of the, I would say, some of the negative, I would say, reaction of the Jewish community. Some respondents spoke about conversion, and they gave me the example, one example, that's Judah, son of Eliakut. And they said he had a very, very strong relationship with the Muslims, and he used to spend nights together, drinking, eating, and doing a lot of other things. He spent, as I said, a good time with the Muslims, and he is said to have converted to Islam. I tried to find him just to test the credibility of the story, but I could not. anywhere, but 2 or 3 of the respondents spoke about this. Now, concerning the sad memories, some of the respondents spoke about violence, crime, and murder, and in here they gave the example of 3 cases, 2 inside the Mellah and 1 outside during the protectorate. And I have the quotes first from one of the respondents, and then the picture of the 6 Jews who were assassinated during the protectorate. Hamid told me about this, and he just has a faint memory about this story. They were all shopkeepers and did not want to open their shops because they knew that the people of Meknes were planning to demonstrate. French policemen were overwhelmed because at the very beginning they told them that they would protect them. The protesters, the protesters were angry, and somehow the riots became violent. The result was bloodshed. Some Muslims were killed too. Yeah, okay. And the 6, I would say, Moroccan Jews were assassinated too. And I checked, I found their graves are still there in the Jewish cemetery. Okay. Another event happened again at that time with some of the boys, the 3 boys indeed. They were having fun and never meant to kill the old Jew. They were all under the spell of hashish, which is sort of drug. Anyway, I will be quick because of time. And they pushed him, and he fell inside a bakery. I have the picture of that bakery. It's closed now. So just to make, to check the reliability of the evidence. So concerning again positive, we have immigration and departure, nostalgia, etc., to be quick again. So concerning question number 2, which is the conversation of the heritage, or Jewish heritage, I found that there are 2 tendencies. A negative one and a positive one. Negative one is that after most of the Jews left, there was a sort of cultural hegemony. The new Mellah lost its identity. It's no longer the new Mellah now, it's called Riyadh. School, for example, the Alliance is now Ibn Utman al-Meknesi, the school where I studied too, and that started sort of cultural erosion of the Jewish heritage. Hisham told me we were aware of what was going on. Jerusalem streets became Al-Quds, etc. So I have taken some pictures of the streets and the names that replaced the Jewish names that the quarter had and the streets had at that time in the 1960s and 70s. Okay, so Zanqat Hassan Ansari, Dir Yassin, Palestine, etc., which is Palestine. Now, you see now the Mellah is really in a bad situation. You see the streets are really, I would say, dilapidated and losing their beauty that existed in the past. Sorry if I put my name in there just to show that this is mine. I took the pictures myself. So you have the houses are going into ruin, some of them, because people left them and nobody is living in some of the houses in there. Though a lot of Muslims are living in there. You see that some of the houses are in ruin, and this is part of losing the identity of the quarterhood, or the neighborhood, the Mellah quarter. So, but still we have a positive tendency because Moroccans respect that heritage. There is a new awareness at the present time. The King Mohammed VI is doing a lot of, making a lot of effort to at least give the Mellah, mainly the Mellah of Marrakesh its identity. Now it's called the Mellah again, but in Meknes it's still Riyadh. So we are waiting for more change to come later on. You see that mainly the religious places and sites are very much respected. So you have the Torah, Hebrew Torah school in there. You have the El Kriyif, which is in the middle. It's a synagogue. It's closed, but nobody touches that. It's still respected. And the third, which is Toledano synagogue, it still have its name, which is in Hebrew. Okay? So the Kodem in there that is written is the Meknesi football team. So the cemetery is well respected. You see the pictures in there. And in the second one, on there we have the tomb of one of the rabbis. I went with one of my students. She is one of my supervisors, and she is working on the same team again. Okay, so just to be quick, some of the Jews are giving a lot of efforts, and here it's the opportunity to speak about Hayim Toledano, who's living in Meknes, and he made a lot of efforts to preserve the Mellah, the old Mellah and the new one, and the cemetery. I met a student, he's American, he's Jewish, and he was there doing some voluntary work, Matthew Wheeler, and we took a picture together. Sorry, I put just he did not allow me, did not give me the permission to use the picture. Now, concerning this discussion, the period in the 1960s and 70s was sort of, I would say, the beginning of some convivencia, because Muslims and Jews were living together at peace. It was a concrete example of coexistence, tolerance, harmony, etc. The Jews were no longer seen as dhimmis, so they were enjoying, I would say, equal rights like the Muslims. They did not have to pay any tax. There was a radical change in the perceptions, the way the Jews see the Moroccans, the way the Muslim Moroccans see the Jews. Of course, in spite of some of the upheavals, the Jewish community was very dynamic in the 1960s and 70s, up to the 1980s. So, but still, the findings show that it's hard, and it was hard to construct convivencia because it was lacking some of the ingredients, like political stability and economic security. These are, I would say, the requirements of convivencia. A cultural umbrella should be there, used to have that. And with these factors to get taken together, we cannot have a religious, I would say, pluralism, because we have cultural, I would say, somehow hegemony. So there were some detrimental factors like 1970s and 60s, etc. The period Morocco was trying to build itself as a new, I would say, state. Yeah, and the national movement made some mistakes. Of course, there were some external, I would say, factors. Still, there is a need to reconsider the state of ignorance. We have to conserve and restore the new Mellah, and here we are in need for the pedagogy of reconstruction. We are in need for the theory of restoration by Brandy, and the role of education is very important because the new generations have nearly no idea about that rich history. So general recommendation, I would say that Muslims have a good, rich memories, but still, somehow they have succeeded to keep the identity of the Mellah is still there, and there is a change at the present time. There is a growing awareness. Moroccans are aware that the Mellah is very important as part of the social fabric, identity, etc. of the Moroccan people and Morocco as a country. So some of the memories should be saved and recorded, and this is the job of the, I would say, researchers, and for the sake of the new generation. The Mellah is a rich and important component of Moroccan history and identity. So some recommendations for future research. Most studies are required to unravel other aspects. Other approaches should be used because this study has some limitations. Now, these are some of my references. Sorry, I was quick because of time constraints. Anyway, I hope that what I have found so far really is, I would say, sort of preserving that rich heritage, I would say, Jewish heritage itself. Thank you a lot for your attention, and I hope that you found it interesting.